Welcome to the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast.
Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast. With me today is Cullen Raichart, founder and CEO of GreenBroz. How's it going today, Cullen?
It's great, David. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. The first repeat guest. I'm happy it's you.
Yes. That's
All
good.
right. All right. Well, before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. Finally, if you want to email the podcast, you can reach me at david@cannabisequipmentnews.com. So, Cullen, the last time we talked to you was about November 2020. How has GreenBroz changed over the last, year and a half?
Well, I mean, let's say that, like everybody, man, it was crazy, right? We've all been through it. But internally, the company has gone through a lot of really solid structural changes that have needed to happen. We've been doing a lot of housekeeping by bolstering our lean and kind of all of our process evaluation. We're actually in the ISO 9000 certification right now, so we're really kind of pushing the company to the next level as far as just being really organized and structured and getting all of our shit in one sock, as I say.
So, how's it going transferring everything to a single sock?
Wow, that's a great question. It is. Well, you know what? It's not like something that you don't have to do. You have to. It's not a question of It's not a question of doing. It's a question of how, right? Mm-hmm. So then you just kind of you kind of have to have good people and people who understand structure and can implement structure without breaking the pieces that already exist. And that's the challenge, is really getting from that moment of a little bit of chaos to more structured without damaging the egos or the psyche of the people who are not used to that structure. So you got to get their buy-in. And one of the ways we do that is have them help write SOPs and give feedback. And so we're always working on trying to keep people engaged at every level, because when I went through ISO, I think the first time, and I don't know why I'm talking ISO, but I went through ISO with a company called Hewlett Packard, I think is the big one that I went through. I might have heard of that company, but that was a top down, hey, you're going to do this, and it was like, we all died. But in this regard, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, we're not that many people. And if you enforce things like that, what you end up is getting a lot of broken eggs. And you do break eggs when you're baking, but you have to choose those battles and stuff. And so we try to get more buy-in and more support and get people more engaged. And we find that, engaging them at that level gives them the opportunity to feel much more a part of what's going on. And man, it's hard to keep people right now, so the more you can get them in, the better, I think.
Well, it's been a difficulty for anybody since the beginning of business, right? Is that as you go from startup or new company and you scale, how do you do that, making things a little bit cleaner while maintaining that company culture? Well,
right. And then the big scare is we're going to be corporate, and you are. It sucks, but there's some real value. There's real value in some of the corporate, right? There's a lot of stuff that's over corporatized and gets the negativity, but you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater and just assume that all things corporate are all things evil, because it's just not true. I mean, corporations become focused and tight, or they die. They're not doing these things because they think it's a great endeavor. They go, it's like, this is economics 101. Man, we got to get more productivity. We got to get more margin. We got to get more efficacy. We got to get more whatever. And all of that is all these lessons are lessons that corporations have learned over, however many years they've been in business, or they've borrowed from other people. If you look at the whole lean situation, it goes way back. The United States took it over. The Japanese took it and went, oh my God, this is the best thing ever, and perfected it. And then now we're all worshiping at the table of it. But it's just these really logical ways of evaluating and viewing things. And any company has to do those things. I think what happens when people think of being corporate is they think of like too much rule, too much structure, and not enough freedom. And it doesn't have to be that way at all, but you have to do things consistently. Otherwise you don't get consistent product. So.
Right. I mean, to that effect, how are some of the ways that you guys have become focused and a little bit tighter to kind of snuff out some of those inefficiencies?
Well, yeah, it's a great question. I think that the things that you start to look for first are, if there's blood, right, you're looking for problems, right? So you obviously go and you try and bandage up the wounds, but you have to stop when you find that spot and you have to look at that and go, well, what caused that wound? What is the source of this real issue? And then that's when you start to really discover, because if you're just putting Band-Aids on, you basically have somebody that's not bleeding to death, but they're going to die anyway, right? That the kind of just, stop the blood flow. But, so you have to kind of dig a little bit deeper. And that's where it gets a little bit more difficult because, oftentimes we're so busy and we're focused so much on production and so much on throughput and so much on sales and so much on these things that have these finite numbers and that make the whole thing run, that you miss those things that are so structural. And we're such a small company and we want to be agile. So we need to continuously be able to move, and we need to look at the problems deeper and go, well, why are we struggling with this particular issue? What is it that's at the root of this problem? And then you kind of dig down and you go, oh, well, it's not even here. It might be in a completely different area, right? It's usually a training issue or a communication issue. And those are the biggest problems that you always find. And then if you can solve those, then you stop people from having their little individual problems or problems within said system. We run a very tight ship. We run a very interesting, all my raw goods comes in one side of my shop and all my finished goods go out the other side, right? So it's all, these thoughts of how to keep things from going back, trying to be efficient. But in that process, these are step by step. You have to smooth out the problems in the step and then the transfer to the next step, right? So you're not just dealing with this piece of isolation, you're dealing with the whole system that is maybe having shifts and shakes and struggles, but those struggles, you have to find where they're coming from, because that's where you find out where the real issue is. And then you can change that, and then you can change your culture, and then you can become a stronger entity. But if you're just fixing you find one little thing and you go, I know how to fix that, but you ignore the deeper issue, you don't get better. And we know what we have to be. We know we have to be better. We're just too small, right? We're mom and pop. I'm one guy, run a company of 50 people, and everybody does whatever they have to do. We all run around and we all just do it, it's like, right. and it works, but it doesn't work for tomorrow, right? It works today. And we don't want to be caught with our pants down tomorrow. We want to be ready, right? And so that growth, like being prepared for growth, is what we're trying to do. There's so many instances of companies that grew too fast, they weren't prepared, or they were outpaced by demand, or they were unable to perform, and all these things. And you go, well, what happened to this company that was such a great product and it died on the vine? And it's because there's a number of things, but principally the biggest thing is that they just didn't have the structure to support the weight of that change. And we want to be structurally sound if the change happens. We hope the change is happening. We think it's happening. We see it coming. But if I'm not prepared, it doesn't matter what happened, right? I'm going to get run over. And so we're trying to get to that point. So that's, again, understanding process, understanding structure, understanding movement, understanding communication. And it goes through every part of your company. And then, so when we started getting into ISO, which is just a stunning exercise it could be an exercise in futility, or it could be an exercise in insanity, but it can also be an exercise in just, a true deep dive into who you are as a company. And you can start to see, oh, there's a reason why these things are in place in other companies, because that's what keeps these things happening correctly. We have all these processes that you put in place. Like we have an engineering change order. If we have a problem with the machine, we have all this process that sounds like a simple thing, but you have so many people who are affected, and then you have a little change in a document has to be promulgated throughout. So you have to, you know what I mean? So you can't just do it in engineering. It's got to go from engineering to the floor, and not just to the floor. It has to go to the people on the floor that need it the most. But it can't just go to those guys. It has to go to everybody, because everybody has to be aware at some point that this change did happen. So that when they see a new part, they're not like, what the hell is this? I've never seen this before, and they throw it away. They're actually prepared to incorporate that, right? So it's really easy to overlook all of the difficult or all the intricacy of what that simple change process is until you do it and you miss, right? Well, I could just go fix that one time, or I can go, how do I make this process so that the next time we don't miss this, right? So that's just kind of an example of what I'm talking about. It's like, it's always looking at the picture of the company as a puzzle that needs to be built, right? And we're always adding to it to make it better and fill it in deeper, make the picture better.
When you talk about getting into ISO, are you specifically trying to attain a certain level of ISO certification, or what part of the process are you going through?
Yeah, so we're just doing the initial stuff, the ISO 9000, and that'll give us, there's 2 other certs in there that we're kind of pursuing. But it's interesting. It's kind of breaks down. So we're going after our manufacturing process, and then we're going after a couple of other processes in the company. But the manufacturing principally because we feel very strongly that, you know, the next level of for this company is going to be dealing with, you know, large corporate entities that are looking for that kind of structure within a company, right? You're going to say, hey, I'm going to come in and design and build you a custom cannabis machine. They go, who the hell are you? Well, I'm GreenBroz and we're ISO. Oh, you're ISO. Good. Okay. They know then that, you know, like I said, everything's in one sock, and that somebody has ordained us to have our shit together, you know, and that's kind of so over this last year and over this time, which has been such a trying time for everybody, but it was trying fiscally for us. It was also trying mentally for everybody. And we had a lot of turnover, you know, as I think most companies did, but through that time, we tried to use that time to not focus on bleeding, you know, not focus on poor performance, but to focus on what we can do to be ready. You know, what can we do? What do we have to do? Not what can we do? What do we have to do to be ready? And that's how I think of it. I don't think of it as something I want to do. It's something I have to do. It's something that must be done. We have to do this. To what level? I don't know, but we have to do it. You know, we have to get ready. You know, with the European markets, the demands over there are much different. With you know, going into a global marketplace, it's like getting certifications on all your machines that you weren't prepared for or didn't know about. It's all this stuff. It just has to be put together. So that's what we've been doing. We've just been building up the ship, you know, getting it ready, like fortifying the machine.
Did a lot of the changes come when you opened the new facility in Vegas?
So we had done some really interesting things. Thank you. That's a great question, because we had done some really interesting things historically. I had implemented a lot of process and process management prior to the move. What I had done had been done with a certain group of people, and they didn't come with me. And so when I moved, that got lost. And it was, you know, it was a year and a half, 2 years worth of work that was structural, and it didn't come. And that moment made me really understand, like, you know, you have to go deeper. You can't just be on people rely on people. Change their minds. People move on. People want to go do other things. Get it. That's their prerogative. But the company as a unit has to be immune, right? How do we immunize the company against loss? You know, and I just had this moment of like, I don't know what I have to do or how I'm going to do this, but I'm very fortunate. I brought on a young woman who came out of Starbucks as a manager, but she's got this incredible mind for this stuff. She's really gifted in her ability to see structure, right? And to put process in place. And so I kind of just carved out a niche for her, and she reports directly to me, and her job is process management. And so she's got great communication skills, works well with everybody. But so we've been able to kind of go back at it, and it's not tied to anybody, right? It's not, tied to individual people anymore. That's the corporate, that's the structure. So now it's like in your vernacular, it's in your communications, it's in the way you do things. And hopefully, if we move again or something else crazy like that happens, we don't have to go and reinvent this whole thing. We just say, oh, this is the structure, keep moving. And it's easier to train people into it also when they know how to approach problems that they have.
Right. So, how did some of these changes affect the product development and the launch of the Model G?
Well, I didn't constrain my engineering department.
Okay.
So they're having to do both. Although they're probably the ones that need the most constraint. But anyway, the grinder is an interesting conversation. I'm glad you brought it up because we started that project about 5 years ago, and Kevin, who's my longest tenured engineer, started the project, and we had a couple of different routes that we had started on, and then we would kind of develop to a point where we found problems that seemed insurmountable, and so then we would change development paths or direction and go, okay, well, this problem doesn't, so let's make a machine that fixes that problem, and then we would kind of find another problem. And it was just like, God, it was just like beating our heads against the wall. We weren't doing anything new, really. We weren't doing anything innovative. We were trying to overcome some things, but everything that we were seeing had been seen, and everything that we were doing had kind of been done. And other companies, in other industries had made machines that were very, very similar to what we were ultimately looking at. And we kind of got, get to that place, and I turned it over to another engineer because, Kevin, as I got him working on other stuff, he's kind of moving on, and I was like, hey, why don't you take a crack at this? We've been working on this for a while, and took a fresh set of eyes. But the fresh set of eyes looked at it, and listened to the stories, saw all the history, and then we started experimenting with some things that were different conceptually. We're just like, well, let's just try something completely different, right? And we made like this wood chipper thing, and the wood chipper did this really crazy thing. It separated stems. So all of a sudden I had a machine. It wasn't grinding necessarily, but it was separating my stems. I was like, oh, wow. Didn't even really, this wasn't in the goal. So how do I incorporate that into the grinding situation? And that was, probably 6 months of kind of design, build, trial. And then, we ended up coming up with this final design. We had made a small piece that again, when we used it, it did everything we wanted it to do, and it separated stems. And we're like, this is really interesting. Is it really viable? Is it small? Is it really going to be can it scale? Can we do the things that we think we want to do with it? So we built a big one, and we took it to a really big brand partner, and they just couldn't believe it. They were like, oh, wow, and we're like, yeah, we got it. But they fed it too fast and locked it all up. We're like, oh, I'll start over. So, we ended up going back one more time, and then that's what we ended up with. So the process in that is like I don't know, for us, it's an interesting kind of thing, but 5 years of, design, build, trial, contemplate, design, build, trial, contemplate, design, build, trial, contemplate, and what we got is magic. I mean, it's absolutely stunning. It does, its throughput is magnificent in this small form factor. We can blow it up, by the way. We can get it to grind any size we want. We've gone all the way down to 400 microns, and we've gone all the way up to 1/4 inch. So, we could probably go bigger than 1/4 inch. And it's just really, really, really consistent. It doesn't introduce any heat. It doesn't introduce any violence, really. I mean, you have to do something at breaking down the buds, and it removes all the stems. So, on the ultimate end of it, we won a major battle, but it was a long fought battle, and it took quite a few people to think it and rethink it. So, yeah.
What is it? What has the interest been since you introduced the Model G?
Well, the receptiveness has been exceptional. So we've sent it out on tour, and we've got it in front of people. And I think the biggest, we've got right now we're sitting on a couple of white label opportunities. We're sitting on a couple of major MSOs who are looking to adopt across the country. We're looking, and a couple of extraction opportunities where we'll be partnering with extraction companies to possibly resell brand. We're trying to figure those things out. So it's been exceptional. The interest has probably been greater on this product than it ever was on any of our other products from a focus standpoint. We've had some struggles with the supply chain, and now we're finally on point, and we're starting to ship, and we're starting to actually get money. So it was a lot of hype, a lot of energy, a lot of excitement, and then we got people in to early adopt, and then we struggled with some supply chain issues, and it bit us a little bit. So we had a little bit of a late delivery in January, February, and the end of February, March. We actually got all the delivery out in the second week of March. So we were about a month and a half behind where we wanted to be, and now we've got all of our kit, everything's ready to go. So it's been exceptional. We've been really, really, really fortunate to get the kind of feedback that we get. It's high priced. That's a high dollar item, which is kind of good and bad, because it does eliminate a certain segment. But we felt we'd come with a bigger one, and then maybe come back with a smaller one, right? And then pull in the smaller segment with the smaller one.
With the supply chain struggles that you're mentioning, were customers at least understanding as a result, because everyone was sort of suffering through it at the same time? Or was it, hey, you said February, where are we at?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're communicating constantly that, we're struggling with the same issues that everybody's struggling with. But ultimately, the customer has heard it. And while they may be aware and they may be willing to accept it, they still have a job to do, and they still are looking for performance. And so you're still in an awkward situation where you're trying to mitigate, and you're trying not to overpromise and underdeliver. You're trying to go the other way, so you try and build these things in, but you can't. So you end up finding yourself in a kind of like a mitigating moment, right? Where we're sorry, we know we're late. This is what we're going to do because we're late. We did warn you that there was going to be an issue, but here we are. This is what we're going to do. And so you try and figure out ways to compensate. But for the most part, people do understand it, but it doesn't change the urgency for them, right? I mean, just because I know that I'm not going to get my new Ford Bronco for another 2 years doesn't mean I'm happy about it, right?
Right.
I mean, I get it. I totally understand it. And but it is what it is. So most of the time, again, they're accepting, but the pain, right? They're experiencing shortfall because you haven't been able to deliver what you promised. So
were customers for the Model G return customers that had bought previous GreenBroz products, or were they primarily new customers?
Well, it's been a mix, because we've got a pretty good presence. We've got a lot of equipment out in a lot of different companies, and so most people who have heard of us or have seen or used some level of our equipment. We've had a little bit of both, and again, so we've not been a force in extraction, and that there's a reason for that. I mean, we never really found an extraction method that we like, and we're more of a dry sift kind of company, and we're more focused in some different areas. And this is the first product that's actually given us poke into that marketplace. And we were working with a major brand new new technology in the solventless extraction market, building them a grinder. They're like, we want 400 micron size. So we're like, well, let's see. So we took this machine that we developed to make pre-rolls. We did some work. We came up with a couple of different ideas on it, and we ended up being able to do it. So now we're able to focus in that sector a little bit. So now we can reach out to the extraction. Like I said, so now we have a couple of extraction manufacturers. They make extraction equipment, something we don't do. But they're willing to come in and say, hey, look, we like it. We'd like to either partner with you and resell or rebrand or, co-brand. And those are all conversations we're willing to have. because it's opened a little bit, a few more doors for us to open up the breadth of our footprint, if you will, but kind of give us a little bit more reach into the whole process, because we're kind of limited in our scope a little bit, because we've been such a powerful trimming company that you kind of get tagged with that. We've always wanted to not be that, but you kind of get tagged with it, and so this has kind of opened that back up, and people are starting to have the conversation like, oh, these guys do a lot more than that. But I think it's helping all the way around.
As part of this organizational transformation, can you talk a little bit about lean, particularly some of the, like 8 wastes of lean and how that pertains to cannabis processing?
Sure. I mean, again, so back to the, what we started with, which is, a kind of follow on of that concept. When I started going to lean training, when it was back on HP, like I said, it was brutal. It was actually kind of top down approach, but I got, before I moved to Vegas, I was having so much trouble in my shop. We were having so many difficulties, and we were having so many problems from the littlest things, tiniest problems to the biggest. And it was structural, and I couldn't understand how to fix these things. And so I started doing some studying on it and started going, and I was like, what, lean, duh. I was trained. Let's go back and look at this, So we started doing, it was daily. I would spend 35, 45 minutes every day with my team and started teaching them lean. And we started talking about what is waste, like defining what waste is a huge thing. Well, there's 8 different wastes. And, of course, the most pernicious waste is human potential, right? So to have an employee that could be doing so much more, and you've got them pushing a broom because you don't know what to do with them, is demeaning, demoralizing, and wasteful, right? So we wanted to attack all these different things, and so we started implementing daily training, daily conversations, and then started training my management to watch, just sit and look. And my manager at the time, young kid, guy, he's a doer, right? I do, I'll fix it, da 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 da. And I said, you need to sit with me. You just sit with me 15 minutes. He was so frustrated, he walked out of the shop. I was like, well, I guess that's the end of that relationship. But he was just like, I couldn't even. Then he came back and he sat down, and he sat, and I didn't say anything. So just watch. And about 30 minutes later, I said, what do you see? What are you seeing? And he's like, this is weird. And I said, yeah, it's weird, right? You're now seeing all of this chaos and all this motion that you thought meant something positive, as for what it is. It's not. It's a negative. I remember we had this young man who always looked busy. He would walk all the way across the shop and grab a broom, and then walk all the way back across the shop, sweep something up, walk all the way back across the shop, drop off the broom, walk all the way back across the shop to go back to work. Like, okay, I'm going to spend $5 more and put a broom in this corner too, right? Yeah. He eliminated 20 minutes of travel for this kid, right? So yeah. that's the kind of thing that my management team started to understand. Is like, oh, so we can do things differently. We can look at a workstation or a work area as an opportunity for growth or change or improvement. So let's move tools here. So we experimented with putting tools on different areas so they had different access. Then we experimented with moving product through construction and timing, and we ended up coming up with a really nice assembly line system with really good set processes in each segment and tools separated by segment. And all of a sudden you've got something that's really, really efficient, and guys can sit. We went from making a machine every 15 to 30 minutes, or one guy could make one in an hour, to banging them out every 3 minutes. So you're starting to see this massive change, and all we've done is just kind of look at the structure and go, well, there's something wrong. What's wrong? Well, we're wasting all this time, energy, and effort because somebody doesn't have a screw, so he has to go over to get another different screw, or he doesn't have this. So we have this whole system now where if you get a machine, you get all the parts, and you get all the parts to put the parts together. And then so when you start on station 1, you know what you're doing, but everything's in front of you. Your tools are here, your parts are here, your everything is within your grasp. You don't have to walk anywhere. You don't have to ask anybody anything. You don't have to tell anybody anything. You can just do your portion and move to the next one. And that just eliminates all this wasted energy. And so that was the big part of what I lost when I was mentioning that earlier. That's a big part of what I lost when it came to Vegas, because people who had inculcated or driven that change were no longer with me.
Gotcha.
And so now we're getting back toward that again, but now the structure is more, it's more concrete. So, but yeah, I mean, the biggest thing you can do as a company or as a person in anything is to sit and watch. And it's the most difficult thing you could ever do. It'll drive you absolutely batshit crazy to sit and watch people do stuff, because you start to understand, like this kid with the broom, he was always doing something. And I was just like, oh man, this guy is just a hustler. Then I started watching him. Like, he was always doing something, but he wasn't being productive, and that's a big part of it. It's easy for somebody to fill up space through movement, and it's deceptive, right? But if you can evaluate what the movement is, you can see where the waste is, you get somebody to be very, very productive. And that's the challenge of anybody is getting what you pay for, getting your productivity up, and getting that throughput up. And the only way you can do it is by observation. And most people won't take the time. Literally, I can walk into any facility. I would venture to guess any facility, any production facility in the cannabis space, and I could spend 20 or 30 minutes and give you improvements that'll blow your mind. Because it's discipline to watch. That's the hard part for people to do, because they're too busy worrying about everything they've got to do and not able to focus. So big part of it.
You mentioned wanting to build larger custom cannabis machines. Is that where GreenBroz is headed? Like, fully just customized, automated solutions? And what do you foresee, in terms of future tech in the cannabis industry over the next 5 years?
Yeah, so that's exactly right. David, we've been pushing in this direction for about 2 years now, 2.5 years. We introduced the first automated trimmer in 2019. We finally got it out. It's finally on market, right? So that's kind of the central brain. And now we're adding pieces to that. So you move two directions. You move away from the trimmer toward the harvest, and you move away from the trimmer toward the finished product. And that's what we're doing. We're just moving in both directions and adding pieces to the puzzle. So what the goal is to add intelligence, data mining, and efficiency in all those processes. So what we do is add those things into those machines, right? So you're going to get a trimmer that loads and unloads itself, weighs itself, and tells you how much has gone in and out of it. It seems like a simple process, but it's a massive amount of data that a company can use, right? So you start doing that at every station, and you start to find out where your strengths and weaknesses are. It's the same thing we just talked about. You can't see loss in a mechanical system until you see it, right? You have to look at it. You have to look for it. You have to find it. And most people will use these tumble trimmers, and they use them and they think, oh, they're great. Look at the machines going through it. They're losing 30-40% over what we produce, right? So that's a lot. So if you're talking about a difference of even 20% between my machine and another machine, then speed is a different conversation altogether, right? Because those percentages are not significant. We're not talking 1%. We're talking about multiples of 10. So that's the goal, is to go, okay, well, we can now manage the information from one side of the process to the other side of the process. And in between, we can now take pictures of data and go, oh, this is a problem. What can we do here? How do we fix this? How do we manage this? How do we make this better? Or this strain isn't really what I thought it was. Yeah. It looked like it was great. It smells great. It sells great, but it's 30% less efficient to process than this one. It's only 10% more valuable. I think we're going to go here, right? But decisions like that can't be made in the present environment. So companies need processing that is intelligent and thought out from front to back, and that's what we're doing. So yes, the answer is we will be doing systems like that. Right now, we're building modular systems for people who want to live like that and don't want to spend, to have a custom system made. but we're making modular pieces that you can put together and you can collect that information as you go through. But ultimately, we see it just like you see Twinkies being made. I mean, a Twinkie machine is a $25 million machine that's about 400 feet long, and you put flour and sugar and water on one end, and Twinkies come out in the bag.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah, no, and that's what you said before, is that's your end goal for the cannabis industry. And how has machine design, or the demand for machine design, evolved over the last year in cannabis, or has it stayed relatively stagnant?
Well, it's interesting. It's been pretty stagnant, and we've been really pushing hard to get people to open up their eyes a little bit and think a little bit farther outside. And now we're starting to see it. And you're starting to see people go, hey, wait a minute. I need more than this answered, right? For a long time, it was like, I need to trim, and I need to trim X. And so they go, oh, how many pounds does your machine trim? It's tedious, man. That's a tedious question. That's not the question you need to answer. You need to know, how efficient is my machine, right? Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that. Well, now you've got me in a place where I'm going to give you an answer that's going to go on a chart, and you're going to look and you go, well, this one does more, I'm going to buy that, right? And that's a fallacy. It's just not true. This one's much more efficient. That one may actually be faster. This is more efficient. Why is it more efficient? Because you get more quality and you get more percentage of product out of it. So this conversation with people is still kind of stuck in this little space where people are going, well, I just need the best of this, or I need the best of that. And that's a great idea. It's just that you don't understand what you're saying. They don't really understand what they're really trying to get, right? And so you have to conversate, you have to have a conversation, you have to educate them about what really is the value point. And the real value point is in the movement from machine to machine and process to process. It's not having the best of this, it's having it all together and seamless, so that you manage the machine or the equipment and to see that you get the product that you want. You're not managing multiple different steps because it's all being done for you. And so there's where I talk about this a lot. I mean, automation is more about transportation than it is anything else, right? It's about the efficient movement of product from one stage to the next stage. And that's why people are looking at, that's why if you go to a modern manufacturing facility, you see robots and all these things. They're working on something moving through a process, right? So, and then we've been doing assembly lines forever, right? Henry Ford figured that one out. But the conversation for a person who's in cannabis has to move away from that. Well, I just want, I bought this trimmer because it's the best trimmer. Why is it the best? Define it. Let's talk about what best means, because best is probably not what you actually think it is. You think speed is best. It's probably not what makes the most money. Or you think that, X is or Y is best, whatever that point is. You need to be able to step away from that and say, well, what gives me more value at the end of the day? And that's the same observational conversation. What are people doing in their trimming? What's going on in that room? Watch and see, and you'll know. And then you'll be like, oh, hey, if I had a conveyor that went from there to there, it had buds on it, I bet I wouldn't have to get up every 5 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. Those kind of conversations are the kind of conversations people need to have, but they're not going to have them until they start to visualize or see or have evaluation. I mean, you can have a company like me or any number of other companies come and evaluate processes. I'm not, we're not unique in that regard. Come in and have a company that does lean, that does lean implementation, come in and give you an evaluation. You can get a lot of knowledge from that really, really quickly. And then you can start to implement that. And it can significantly change how you look at your company, because these companies are going to go just like we are. They're going to go from this size to this size, and this size to this size isn't a matter of volume, right? Mm-hmm. There's a whole bunch of infrastructure that has to be put into place for that. And that's what people are starting to understand, and hopefully we're leading the conversation in that direction.
It sounds like, the industry is still at a point where these companies have problems and they're just looking for a Band-Aid or a solution for that specific problem. They're not kind of seeing the bigger picture. What are your expectations for that transition? You know, is it going to be a bell curve where all of a sudden one day that's the way the industry goes, or is it going to kind of be piece by piece?
Wow. I mean, we're betting on the bell curve, and that's why we're pushing as hard as we are to create machines that people don't understand yet, right? So we've started selling these we call them inline system, right? It's a rise conveyor into a trimmer, into a rise conveyor, into a sorter. But it's very, very, very basic. It's just two principal operations being done with two rise conveyors. So you have two things being done at once instead of a single thing, right? Mm-hmm. So it's really basic first baby steps into automation, and people are starting to get it, and then they buy them and they're like, what was I thinking? Well, I get it. It's not your problem. It's not your fault. You're coming into an industry where you don't understand what we do for commodity. You just don't understand it because that's not how it's been done. It's never been done this way. And to your point, people are looking at it and go, I have a problem. I need to fix this problem. No, you don't need to fix that problem. You need to see the whole picture and decide how to fix all your problems, right? Mm-hmm. We don't want to just go after this one because you may create more problems here by solving this problem, right? You buy the wrong piece of equipment at this stage, you end up not being able to tie it into other pieces of equipment. It's costing you money because it's less efficient, right? Or it's costing you money because your quality of product isn't as high as it needs to be, or X, Y, Z. There's a lot of opportunities for loss in equipment. So you want to make sure that you're considering that as a holistic approach and not just as a single solution. Because again, single solution is great if you're in your garage and you need to get something done. As soon as you move out of the garage and you get a facility, you need equipment that amps up, that creates that opportunity for you to be competitive with other people, because that's what's going to happen. You're going to find that you can't get to like if you just went and tried to scale hand trimming, just for the one thing we all know, there are companies right now that are outproducing the ability to hand trim, right? Like they couldn't hire enough people to hand trim, it's just not possible because, right. I mean, technically, yes, they could, but look at the size and the volume of space that they're having to, we have a company here that does 10,000 pounds a week. What is that? 1,000 people? Where are you going to put them? Right? How are you going to keep them comfortable? Where, just like what if 10 of them are sick? I don't, it's like this becomes so untenable. And so the conversation, obviously, I mean, it's funny to think about it that way, but you would be surprised the number of people who can't think outside of this small little realm of focus. And they go, well, this works really well for now. I'm stuck. I like this. Okay, that's fine. But you're stuck. You're stuck. You need to stop and think, look at it. I'm not saying that you're not doing the right thing, but do you really know that you're doing the right thing, that you have the right solution where you're at? Have you looked at it? Have you spent 30 minutes looking at it? How about an hour? How about 3 days? I mean, the Japanese will sit there for a week, and then they're like, I think I have an idea. And then they talk about it.
Right.
So,
yeah.
We're not that patient, but you gotta spend some time.
Yeah. Americans are certainly not that patient.
No, we're not spending weeks.
So what should the CEN listeners and viewers expect from GreenBroz next?
We're continuing to add intelligence to the system, right? So you're going to see the ability to pull more data. So that's really going to be the biggest thing, is like getting the machines to communicate with each other and bringing data through your system so that you understand where your loss and where your gains are throughout an automated system. You'll see some add-ons. There's some technology advances that are coming that you'll see this year. There's some that'll be coming further down the road, but you'll see some technology advances this year. You'll see some movement outside of our specific equipment into other equipment, so that you'll see some integration, some planned integration or some designed integration. You'll see some stuff like that. Those are the things that you're going to see sooner than later. I would expect to see those before the show or at the show. We always go MJ BizCon's our big reveal party, but that's kind of where we're pushing. Obviously I'm always working on stuff that I feel has a disruptive opportunity within the market space. So we have engineers working on that. That's kind of our hush hush area. And then we have product design, or we have product lifecycle design. So, my Model M went from 420 and 215 to 420, from a 420 to the Model M, from the Model M to the Model M Plus. And now you have an automated trimmer, right? So it's just basically automated. It feeds itself and unloads itself. Well, what can we get out of that? Well, we could know how much it fed itself, how long it trimmed, how much the trim came off, and how much came out, right? So we can start adding little bits of intelligence to that. So you'll see individual products become a little bit better, a little bit more intelligent, and then you'll see them talking and working with other products so that we're collecting that data from front to back, and through the system, a company is able to take that information and then become a better have a better view of what's happening in their systems. There's this great product that everybody has to use. It's called metrics. And it holds all this wonderful data, and we should be feeding data into metric so that a customer knows that, sour diesel X from this date perform this way, so we can expect it to perform this way. And then if it doesn't, why? Then we can evaluate that, and maybe we're having an issue, or maybe we need to correct or tweak something. Then we can look at that and we go, okay, this is what we expect from this strain. What about this strain? And then you can look at the outflow and you go, well, where's the money? And then you say, well, we're actually making more money on this strain, versus that strain. Okay, what's the cost of blah, blah, blah? Do we switch over? It's hard to make that decision right now without truly understanding all your value propositions. Every single point needs to be evaluated. And you go, why would I do all that? It's so much work, but it is. But if you don't, you're not seeing what you're doing and you don't understand, and you could be taking an opportunity for loss. And in a business that's getting tighter and tighter and tighter, and margins are starting to shrink rapidly, loss is not where we want to focus. We want to focus on gains. So,
speaking of change, have you been satisfied with the move to Vegas?
From a business perspective, 100%, right move, absolutely. I miss it. I'd rather be in a different climate personally. As a human being, I don't think I was designed for this.
Gotcha. For the desert.
Yeah. But I mean, it's been such a great opportunity. Vegas has been really welcoming. They welcomed us with open arms. We got some really good incentives to be here, and we have a great community here. We've gotten some really outstanding business partners in the manufacturing space, of all spaces you wouldn't expect. But because of the pressures in California, you're seeing some good companies come out here. And so we've had the opportunity to develop some really solid relationships that we probably wouldn't have developed, staying in San Diego. So overall, yeah, it's a win.
Okay. You've been really gracious with your time. Is there anything else that, we might have left off, or anything in particular you want to make sure, we don't miss this time?
I just think, it's depending, for anybody who's listening to this, I think, business is an adventure, and you need to understand that, it's also competitive, and by competitive, you have to decide who your competitor is. And if you decide that you are your competitor, then take a good deep look at yourself and look at your business and do the right evaluations and become better. And that's what we're trying to get people to see, is like, you can look deeply into yourself, into your process, into your structure, and you can find ways to become better as a company, right? It's the same thing you do when you want to lose weight or whatever, join the gym or whatever, but it's the same conversation, right? Spend a little time, be a little introspective, look at it. And if you need, get somebody outside to come look at it. There's companies that just do that, and it's not bad to have a fresh perspective from somebody who can walk in and take a peek and evaluate what they see. I can tell you for a fact that what I see when I go out there is a lot of people really working really hard, struggling through a lot of stuff, and they're missing a lot of opportunity for strength and growth. And it's not their fault. It's not a pointing the finger exercise. It's just a reality, because you're so busy trying to overcome the daily that you're missing out on the big picture. So that's what I would say, is just take a moment, and I'm going to plug somebody that I have no connection to, 2 Second Lean. Just type in 2 Second Lean in your Google and look at Paul Akers. That guy leaned out everything in his whole life. And that is a run. You'll spend days on that guy. He's amazing. But that concept of just that evaluation is essential.
He didn't lean out his family, did he?
He leaned out everything. Like he literally taught him. He leaned out his diet plan. He leaned out, like he did this whole his whole thing is like, it's interesting. 2 Second Lean, like every day try and do something better. Like just a little bit incremental, tiny little incremental betters. So he just applied that to everything, and you can go down a rabbit hole with this guy. But if you stay out of the depth of the hole, you can find out that it's really not as difficult to do these evaluations and to understand how to approach bringing your team in and getting everybody involved and making everything better. Because people get tired of doing tedious shit and they get fed up with it, and then they quit instead of telling you, hey man, it'd be better if we did something differently. Right. Well, if you get them engaged, maybe you can save that person from quitting, or maybe you can improve your process and your product and your company in the process. So anyway, that is a horribly shameless plug. I'm calling Paul. I'm telling him. I highly recommend it. It's a great study. It's definitely worth looking at.
Well, Cullen, it's been a little bit more than 60 episodes now, and I was just really happy that you were able to be the first guy to be on twice. I
appreciate that. I mean. Listen, it's always good to see other people's success, and that's part of what I enjoy most about being in business is seeing people who struggle through, figure it out, and start. And things are different now than when we first met. You guys have made improvements and changes, and you've learned some stuff, and it's awesome to see, man. And you're obviously having success, so good for you, and congratulations for 60 plus episodes. I mean, that's no small feat. It's easy if it's just you, but you got to coordinate a lot, and kudos to you for getting that figured out.
Excellent. Well, Cullen, thanks again for your time. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, David, anytime, man. I'll be on 3 times if you want me to. Just give me a call.
Man, I'm looking forward to it. All right.
Thank you.
Before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. Finally, if you want to email the podcast, you can reach me at david@cannabisequipmentnews.com. All right. For Cullen Raichart, founder and CEO of GreenBroz, I'm David Manti. This is the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast.